Hey pen people, I thought I'd just do a quick review of one of my favorite orange inks. This is Monteverde Copper Noir. It's a dark, kind of earthy orange that's really fun. I've really enjoyed it. So for this review of this ink, I've used my Conklin Durograph in a fine nib. I just got this pen. I actually won it in a giveaway. It's a pretty nice pen. I had to work on the nib a little bit. It was having a lot of skipping issues, but got that sorted out. But I don't know if it's a result of what I did or what, but this thing is a juicy pen and it puts down more of like a really juicy medium line to me. But it's technically a fine nib. So anyway, just keep that in mind as you're looking at this writing, because this ink might look a little different if you're using a finer, drier nib than this one. Okay, so we're going to talk about some pros and cons of this ink. We're going to do a comparison here. Well, I've already done the comparison, but we're going to talk about it. But first, I want to start with my little writing sample quote of the day. And you can see I had some hard starts of my own. Don't know why I just kept messing up. And it says start this whole sheet over again. We're just going to deal with this eyesore. Anyway, so this is my little quote for the day. And it comes from Outwitting History, which is a book I've mentioned before. I just finished reading it and it was great. I highly recommend it. Anyway, so this is a quote from there. Nothing heightens one's commitment to social justice more than injustice. Nothing hones one's love of peace more than a few thousand years of violence and oppression. So Aaron Lansky, the author of this book, is Jewish. So when he talks about a few thousand years of violence and oppression, he's talking about Jews. And it's no secret that Jews have gone through terrible, terrible, terrible things over an outrageously long, drawn out period of history. You know, their persecution or other people's persecution of them is literally biblical. You know, it goes way back. Anyway, I like this quote though because, you know, topics like social justice and oppression, those come up a lot these days with mixed reactions, right? Not everybody takes kindly to somebody else from a different group talking about the ways they've been oppressed. For example, I've heard some white people like me say that black people just need to grow up and work hard and they'll do just fine, you know? They just kind of shrug off that there are still injustices going on. And I don't think that's okay. I'm not trying to make a political statement here or anything, but I just hope that when we encounter someone who says that they have endured oppression of some kind, or when we encounter someone who is an activist for something they're passionate about, I hope that we'll take them seriously and try to show empathy and consideration. And even if we don't agree with them, acknowledge that those people are trying to make the world a better place. And if all of us were to work as hard as, you know, some activists out there to make the world a better place, I think the world would be better. That's my 2 cents on that. And all right, so let's talk about some pros and cons of this ink, Copper Noir. We'll talk about the pros. The color is awesome. Sometimes I struggle with orange inks because they are too light, and sometimes I end up like pushing harder on the paper, trying to get more ink to come out, even though I know that's not how it works. Sometimes I'm just left feeling like the line is too faint. But with this one, it's a very deep, rich orange. So this ink uses Monteverde's ITF treatment, which supposedly is a technology they incorporate into their inks to make them more quick drying, but also less likely to dry out in your pen. It makes them nice and wet and smooth to write with. And that's definitely been my experience with this ink. It is nice and wet. It is well behaved for the most part, at least. So I really like that. This is a nice shading ink. And again, you may have different results depending on the pen. I feel like this pen, as inky as it is, I'm seeing more shading with this ink than I have in the past. And even here, there's shading, but there's a little less. I used a dip pen for these, and dip pens I'm finding just behave differently with fountain pen ink. So I was surprised at how some of these looked on the page, but we'll talk about that in a minute. One thing I like about this, and I forgot to incorporate this into my sheet here. I apologize for that, but there is some water resistance to this. It's not marketed as a water resistant ink, but like I've said before, I'm always on the lookout for inks that show just a little bit of water resistance so that if there's some big catastrophe and my library gets flooded, at least I can recover what I wrote, even if it doesn't look good. This pen meets that criteria for me. Most of the color may lift off the page if it gets wet, but there will still be a line, a clear, crisp line that is legible. So that's really nice. Another thing that I like about this is it's fairly inexpensive. Yeah, the bottle is kind of small, but I think I bought this for $10. It's been a while, so maybe the price has gone up. I don't know. Prices change. But overall, I feel like this is a pretty competitive price for what you're getting, especially compared to a lot of other luxury inks out there that are like just really expensive, $20, $30 a bottle or whatever. So $10 is pretty good. There aren't a lot of cons for this ink, but I'll mention just a couple. So this ink, like some orange inks, for some reason, they get a little crusty when they dry. So when I take the lid off of this bottle, sometimes I get some crusty flakes that fall onto the table. It's like dried paint or something. And I don't know if you can see this because I have a black nib on here. Maybe you can see how there's just some like blemishing on the nib from ink kind of crusting on there. It's not a huge problem. It doesn't happen like crazy. It's not like you're going to use this ink for a month and then have barnacles growing on your pen, but you might notice just kind of a film over your nib a little bit, or on your bottle, or anywhere that the ink has dried. Not on the page, doesn't happen there, but just anywhere where the ink settled in a thick pool and then dried, you might get some crusties. It doesn't affect the performance at all, as far as I have noticed, but it's just a weird quirk, and apparently from what I've heard, a lot of orange inks have it. So another con here is that this may not be the best ink for cheap paper because of that ITF treatment. I like that ITF treatment, but it makes it pretty wet, and so you might see more bleeding and more feathering on cheap paper. On this Rhodia and on Clairefontaine, I don't have problems, but if you're using printer paper or cheap copy paper, whatever, or some cheap journal from Walmart, maybe you'd see some feathering and some bleed through. And then I put a question mark here because I put another bullet thinking surely there's got to be another con, and I couldn't think of one, and I feel like maybe there's something that I'm forgetting, but honestly, it's a really nice ink. I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. I enjoy using it. So let's look at these comparisons here. And again, I did these with a dip pen, so some of them might look a little different if you use an actual fountain pen. I used a dip pen just so I could go quickly and not have to like fill up 4 different pens. But yeah, so like Diamond Pumpkin, when I used that in a pen a while ago, it was much darker, much more like Monteverde Copper Noir or Diamond Terracotta. But here, it's this bright orange. I actually like it both ways, but anyway, so there might be some variations there. But you can see here, Diamond Pumpkin, bright true orange, Pilot Iroshizuku Yuyaki is also kind of a true orange color, a little more of a faded, milder, mellower look to it. And then Copper Noir is really just kind of a rust colored orange. I mean, that's, I think, probably the best way of describing it. It's darker, it's got some red to it. The Terracotta is the closest ink I've used to Copper Noir. It's similar as far as like the darkness goes. It might be slightly darker, as you can see here. But Terracotta seems to be a little bit more toward brown and red. And this is more toward kind of red and orange, I guess. So hopefully that helps. And I think that's about it. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.